Hello friends, welcome to Earth, Shelter for Learning. Today we will discuss Class 5 Social Studies questions. So let's start. Plains are formed by deposition of dash brought down by the rivers. Grass, silt, sand, both silt and sand. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well, before that, B and C is the answer, silt and sand, no doubt about it. But do you know how silt looks like, how sand look like, and what are other types of such depositions brought? Let's have a look. There is a sand, there is a silt, there is a loam, and there is something called as clay. We all know that, right? So that is how it looks like from distance, right? So sand and silt is our answer. When the rivers bring them together with them and they deposit it elsewhere, that is how plains are formed. But do you know what's the actual difference between these sands? Let's compare a single gravel or a single particle of each type of sands. When you see a gravel, you know gravel, right? So that is how a gravel size is, about diameter 2 millimeters. A sand is slightly smaller than a gravel. Smaller than sand is a silt, and clay is almost invisible. So that is how the difference in the silt, sand, clay and gravel is there. So you should know it. When you have a chance, always touch it and see, you will feel the difference. Next, I was thinking, instead of going to the next questions, let us see how many types of landforms are there. Plains is one of the landform. How many types of land there? So plateau, we all know what's a plateau, right? So that's how a plateau looks like. A horse is standing on a plateau here, right? But there is this one. This one is not a plateau. That is a different kind of landform, something called as a butte, that we will see later. But this over here, where a horse is standing, that, my friends, is a plateau. Okay, it's a flat elevated landform that rises sharply above surrounding area on at least one side. That is a coastal plain. You see, it likes there is a river over here which might ultimately go and meet the ocean, and this all is a coast, a sea coast you can say, or ocean coast, or a beach in something near to a beach. So that is how a coastal plain is formed. The silt and the sands are coming together and depositing over there. Delta. So what's a delta basically? When the river meets the ocean, the part where it meets is a delta. Okay, you can see this part is a delta, that is a river which is flowing, and that is a sea or an ocean. So currently that's a Lake Bogoria. It's a home to a rich variety of microscopic life. So this you can see, it's a lake basically, okay, which is where the river is coming and meeting the lake. So deltas form as rivers empty their water and sediment into another body of water, such as an ocean or a lake or another river. Okay, and this is where you can see lots and lots of flamingos. So let's move on. Next type is called an isthmus. So isthmus is basically a narrow strip of land which is connected by two large land masses, which is separated by two water bodies. You can see there is a big land mass over here, and on the either side of this land there are two different water bodies, like it may be a sea or it may be an ocean, whatever is there. So this kind of a landform is called an isthmus. This is an alluvial fan. So alluvial fan is a triangle shaped deposit of gravel, sand and smaller material called alluvium. Just we have seen what's the difference between a gravel and a sand, right? Alright, and even something which is smaller than a sand becomes an alluvium. And when such triangular deposits, it looks like a mountain, but obviously it's not a mountain. That's technically called as an alluvial fan. The bluff. Bluff is a type of a broad rounded cliff. So that's a cliff, right? That's a kind of a mountain, that's a cliff. A man is standing on a bluff over here. It's a rounded cliff. So this is actually Sam's throne above. It's a bluff in Ozark Mountains in United States of Arkansas. Next, that's a dune. Oh, he's sliding so fast. So dune, basically, obviously we all know, right? In deserts we will always find it. A dune is a mound of sand. This is formed by wind, usually along the beach or in a desert. Dunes form when wind blows sand into a sheltered area behind an obstacle. Yeah, so basically we all know what's a dune and what's where we can find it. Next, glaciers. Glaciers are very famously called as moving rivers of ice. A glacier technically is a huge mass of ice that moves slowly over the land. So the one in the photo is a glacier. You can see it's kind of a mountain, right? A mountain, but not of sand, but of ice. Waterfalls of melted ice run off the Brazil Glacier, which you can see in the figure, in the Svalbard archipelago. So what's an archipelago? Have any idea? A group of islands is called an archipelago. Okay. So the one that you see is a part of a Norway, in the Norwegian region. Next, mesa. A mesa is a flat top mountain or a hill. So when there is a mountain, but the mountain is not conical, right? At the top it is as flat as you can see in the photo. Such kind of landforms are mesa. Mount Roraima, a tepui, a sandstone mesa, rises from the clouds in the eastern peninsula. This 1,200-meter plateau is among those believed to have inspired Sir Arthur Conan Doyle to write his 1912 novel, The Lost World. So I hope you know who is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He's the one who wrote Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, and don't tell me you don't know what's a Sherlock Holmes. Next, butte. That is what I was talking about. In the very first landform, you have seen a tall, a tall tower-shaped mountain. Those basically are not mountains. Those are called as butte. Buttes are tall, steep-sided towers of a rock. A butte, an isolated hill with steep sides, is a type of a landform created by erosion and weathering. The one that you can see is Mittens. Mount Valley, Utah, United States has the most famous collection of buttes in the world. Buttes usually form in arid areas and are created by erosion and weathering. The pair of buttes in this photograph are called the Mittens. Their rocky thumbs are facing each other. You can see that's a thumb over here and there is a thumb over here. So these looks like facing each other. And famously called, these two pairs are called as Mittens. Next, canyon. Canyon is a deep, narrow valley with steep sides. It's a valley, but the sides are very steep, like almost vertical. So that's a great Grand Canyon, the very famous Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon in United States of Arizona is a product of tectonic uplift. It has been carved over 1 million of years as the Colorado River cuts down through the Colorado Plateau. The Grand Canyon is between 5 million and 70 million years old. That's really old. Prairie. You can see, that is what a prairie is basically. A huge mass of land with grasses for animals. Prairies are enormous stretch of flat grasslands with moderate temperatures, moderate rainfall, and only few trees you can see. A herd of American bisons grazes on the prairie in the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge, Oklahoma, United States. Yeah, so that's basically lots of bisons grazing. Peninsulas. Peninsulas is a type of coastal landform. Okay, it's a type of a coastal landform. It is a piece of land almost entirely surrounded by water but connected to the mainland on one side. You can see that mostly is surrounded by water and a small part is only it's like a tie. You can see, yeah, it looks like a tie. So that basically is a part landform called as peninsula. So this is a peninsula near Brayfoot Bay famously called as Charles Peninsula. Yeah, sounds like it. Charles Hill Peninsula. Yeah, that would be right. Impact craters. So craters, like whenever a space object comes and hits a planet or Earth or any other body, it forms a hole. That hole is basically called as a crater. An impact crater, a depression formed by a collision of large objects with Earth's surface, is a type of impact landform. Okay, that is where a meteor hit the Earth in Arizona, USA. That's a photo of it, obviously. Next, valleys. We all know what are valleys, right? U-shaped valley is an example of a glacial landforms carved by slowly moving glaciers. We all know what a valley is, right? So let's move on. Ocean trenches. Yes, deep oceanic trenches are a type of tectonic landform formed where one tectonic plate is subducted beneath another. Well, tectonic plate, it's like a layer of lands beneath the earth. It's like one bread kept over the other, and when these plates move, what forms is a gap, and that gap is called as a trench. Oceanic, and when this happens below the earth or below the ocean, that's oceanic trenches. Volcanic cones, we all know what are volcanoes, right? So that's also one kind of landform. The volcanic cone is the most recognizable volcanic landform built from materials erupted from a volcanic vent, and that's Mount Fuji, the most famous in Japan. Let's move on. Yes, that is something what I like. The deepest point in the earth and the tallest point on the earth. Mariana Trench is the deepest point on the earth which is available. It is in the South Pacific Ocean. It's almost 11 kilometers below the sea level. And yes, the most famous Mount Everest. A landform is a feature. What's a landform? We have been talking about landform, right? A landform is a feature on Earth's surface that is a part of a terrain. Mountains, hills, plateaus and plains are four major types of landforms. Minor landforms include buttes, canyons, valleys and basins. So that's it for today. Happy learning. Bye-bye.